My name is Päivi Aarreniemi-Jokipelto. I work as principal lecturer in Haaga-Helia, University of Applied Sciences in Finland. The title of my presentation today is Digital Peer Learning, the importance of virtual presence, interaction and dialogue between facilitators and learners. The presentation has 4 sections: introduction, study, results and conclusions. I will start with an introduction to digital learning and peer learning. I have worked a lot with teachers from different countries, for example, Brazilian teachers, South African teachers and teachers from Saudi Arabia. And when I ask what digital learning means for them, they are quite often telling about the learning management system and learning materials they are having there. A disadvantage, which one is quite often mentioned in the context of digital learning, is that they eliminate teacher-student interaction and they involve only limited peer-to-peer communication. If we are using digital learning and learning management system only as a repository of learning material, so it can be so that there's no teacher-student interaction and limited peer-to-peer communication, but this one depends on us. Learning management system and digital learning offers lots of opportunities for interaction, for dialogue, for collaboration. It's up to us how we are using it. In practice, we cannot copy the solutions from face-to-face learning, but instead we should design the processes so that we take advantages of technology and what it is providing, and there's lots of opportunities for interaction, dialogue and collaboration. Digital learning, it is not an individual sport. We can have lots of interaction in digital learning. And for example, by using learning management system, there can be lots of dialogue between students and between facilitator and students. There can be communication and discussing, tutoring, all that kind of can happen in digital learning. Students can have different kind of assignments in which they are creating something together, discussing and problem solving, for example. The context of the study is a teacher training program Haaga-Helia in Finland is providing. It is pedagogical studies for vocational and higher education teachers. Our students, they are adults and they are already having master's or doctoral degree, and now they are studying their pedagogical studies. And if I think about the teacher training program and the pedagogical principles and practices we are having. First, competence-based development and personalization. Second, dynamic concept of competence. And then collaboration and peer learning, and especially collaboration and peer learning. Those are important from this presentation point of view. And the program is called Web-Based Teacher Training Program. We have had the program since 2007. It is 1-year program, and we are having totally 8 contact days, face-to-face days, and in addition, a lot of activities which are happening online, or either so that our students are working in their own workplaces. There are many definitions for peer learning, but the definitions what we have used comes from Boat, and he says that peer learning refers to students learning from and with each other in both formal and informal ways. In our teacher training context, we have partly used both definition and partly we have added an additional element to the definition. In our context, it means learning with others. It means, for example, joint learning assignments. Learning from others. It refers to the situations where students learn by observing their peers' teaching practices. They are reading each other's reports or discussing, for example, work experiences. And the element we have added to the definition is called learning through others, and it refers to seeing something of yourself as a reflection of another one. In practice, what happens in peer learning in our program, it is that we are having from 3 to 5 fellow students who form peer groups, and they are having the same peer groups during the whole studies. And each peer group, they create their own collaborative learning environment in which they are discussing and collaborating and interacting with each other. In our program, we are having 3 parallel learning environments. There's teacher-designed learning environment, peer group-designed learning environment, and personal learning environment. And teacher-designed learning environment, it includes activities and materials which have been used and created in contact days and in online webinars. This year we are using Moodle, but for example, last year it was Microsoft Teams. So it depends on the year what is the digital solution what we are having. Peer group designed learning environments, it includes joint assignments the peer groups are having and competence demonstrations they are doing together. But generally speaking, peer group learning environment, it has very important role in peer group activities. All cooperation, co-creation they are doing, it happens there. Sharing different experiences, material, that is also done there. But in addition to that, peer support, supporting each other to continue studies even when you are feeling a little bit down. It has very important role for the motivation. But in addition to these 3, we are also having personal learning environment in which each student is having their teaching practice when they are observing someone. That kind of documents are there and reflections, all tutoring and individual competence demonstrations are there. So they are forming their portfolio. And students are choosing the digital tools and learning environments, what they are using individually or together with their peer group. Depending on who is the owner of learning environment, it may look like a little bit different for teachers and students. If school or university is the owner of learning environment, it is typical that we are having few digital tools. It might be so that sometimes teachers are feeling that they are not having the digital tools they would love to have, or they are not having the functionalities they would need. For example, it might be so that school or university have decided to use, for example, Moodle or Blackboard, and that's it. And from learners' point of view, it is so that in these kind of cases, teachers are using the same tools and there's no variety in that. And after graduation, students are typically not having access to the learning environment any longer. And the structure of learning environment is integrated model. For example, in Finland, teachers are having lots of freedom and quite often they are able to choose the learning environments and digital tools they want to use. It means in practice that they are having lots of digital tools, and students' point of view, it might be confusing if all teachers are using different learning management system and tools. But from teachers' point of view, they are having the functionalities they are feeling that they are needing from learning point of view. But there's exactly the same problem with accessibility after graduation. Typically, students are not having access after graduation, and the model, it can be either integrated or distributed model. In Haaga-Helia, we are also using learner and peer group learning environments. And number of tools, it depends on the case, what kind of decisions peer groups make. And a disadvantage for some of the teachers might be that they need to learn to use several digital tools, and they are in a way going to the environments. Students are inviting them to come. But from learners' point of view, it means that students have access to peers and personal learning environments also after graduation, and they are having the freedom to choose the tools based on their own desire. And in a way, this one is also supporting lifelong learning idea. Typically, the structure of learning environment is distributed. And in Haaga-Helia, we are having the approach that teacher is partly able to choose the learning environments she is using, and then our learners and peer group, they are also making decision what are the tools, digital tools and learning management system, what they are using in their own activities. In our teacher training, we are having 3 types of actors. We are having facilitator or facilitators, we are having learners, and we are having peers. And if I'm thinking about the role between facilitator and learners, it is so that facilitator, he or she is learning together with learners, and he or she is not the only one who is in a way lecturing or doing that kind of, but his or her role is more like facilitating the learning processes. And if I'm thinking about the 3 processes, the teacher designed, peer group designed, and personal learning processes, it includes lots of interaction between the 3 actors. It includes dialogue, lots of discussing. And for example, if I'm thinking about peer group activities, co-creation, collaborative learning, those are the concepts which describe the activities they are doing. And also, for example, facilitator is tutoring the peer group, not just an individual learner, but also peer groups. Next, about tutoring. Each learner is having at least 3 guidance meetings with his or her facilitator. But whenever there's need for additional meetings, it's possible to organize online meetings. And each learner is having online competence portfolio, which one is used to guide the individual learning process. Facilitator observes students teaching at work and facilitates the learning process. But it is not just the facilitator who is tutoring the process. It is also so that peer group members, they are having very important tutoring role, and this role is very important from the learning point of view, so that they are observing their peers and giving feedback and also that kind of support and encouragement. There are several forms of digital activities peer groups are having, for example, interaction and communication. They need to have also instant messaging, and co-creation and sharing of materials. They are having online meetings and they need to plan and organize their studies. Together, they are doing competence demonstrations and continuing assessment. These kind of things are also shared with the facilitator. But what is important also is supporting peers. Peer groups can choose the tools they are using in their learning environment. This is an example how it may look like. For example, in this case, Google Sites is used as a gate to all peer group learning environment activities. And you can have, for example, interaction also in Google Sites. WhatsApp is very popular as an instant messaging application. Adobe Spark Page, it can be used, for example, for notes, Google Documents and Slides for co-creation. Google Drive is good for sharing different type of files and different kind of materials. Google Blogger, it can be used, for example, competence demonstrations. Google Meet for online meetings, and when you are organizing your studies, Trello is a nice tool. But as I mentioned already earlier, this is just an example. It might be so that our students may decide to use, for example, Microsoft tools or something else. It's totally up to them what they want to use. They invite the facilitator to their learning environment. Next, I will tell about the study we have conducted in our teacher training program. CSCL, Computer Supported Collaborative Learning Framework, is the framework which one was used to evaluate the information and communication technologies for peer learning in our study. CSCL emphasizes meaningful interaction between learners, both directly through communication and mediated by artifacts. As you can see, we are having peer learning in the center. We are having 3 presences: cognitive presence, tutoring presence, and social presence. And in addition to those, we are having institutions at parity, epistemic parity, and existential parity. Computer-supported collaborative learning model, it has offered a theoretical lens to explore the effect of cognitive, social, and tutoring aspects on the educational experience in a learning community. And when we are thinking about this study, cognitive presence, it referred to all the online and face-to-face activities in which we aim to construct and deepen the students' theoretical understanding on pedagogy. And also in the same study, social presence, it was created by the technical affordances of the learning environment. And tutoring presence, it refers to the designs of the educational settings and facilitation. And it also enables the transition from social to cognitive presence. We have used educational design research in the study. As I mentioned already earlier, the program started in 2007, and we have already earlier conducted research about the program. And now, if we are thinking about the preliminary research phase, we have analyzed the prior solutions and also conducted literature review. In the design and piloting phase, we had pilot, and also we conducted focus group interviews. And in the last phase, in the evaluation phase, we are analyzing the results and also defining the next cycle for the study. Next, about the results of the study. We will start by students' conception of peer learning. The results of the students' conception of peer learning are presented according to the levels of parity, existential, epistemic, and institution set. In general, the students define peer learning as collaboration, interaction, and communication. Students felt that peer learning made it possible to use each other's strengths, special expertise areas, and skills. They said that it would not have been possible to achieve learning outcomes alone, that they felt that together they could get more insights and a wider knowledge base compared to working alone. And if we look at the epistemic parity, it was realized in joint learning assignments, discussions, collaborative online and face-to-face meetings and workshops, where they proceeded their work experiences and pedagogical articles. Students discussed also about peer learning at the existential level. They said that building trust as a fundamental ground for peer learning, and they mentioned also how getting to know the team members lowered the threshold for asking for help. The support the peers received from each others, they felt that it has really benefited peer learning. The peers made sure everyone stayed committed to the study process. And there was one group who had written, "In our group, peer learning works well because we support each other, and perhaps it is a kind of a cliché, but we are more than some of our members." Institution-set parity can also be seen in the discussion the team members had about peer learning. They referred to common goals, accountability, and taking responsibility as a requirements of peer learning. And also commitment was seen as a key word in this. One group said, peer learning is the kind of work where if someone gets the assignment to a certain stage, someone else just takes it from there without anyone urging them, so the process flexibly becomes self-directed. And what was needed to support peer learning? It looks like, according to study, the asynchronic and synchronic meeting applications, those formed the basics for peer group communication. Instant messaging applications, those were very important in the process. For example, when they could chat spontaneously, ask for help, check study-related issues, and keep track of the assignments. And for example, WhatsApp, it was mentioned and referred as a rescuing angel. One group mentioned, peer group meetings, we have never met face-to-face. Skype meetings and messaging on WhatsApp and Blogger have made it possible that we have interacted almost every day, or given a feeling that interaction is ongoing. And if we look at what is needed for cognitive activities, there has been different co-writing and co-sharing applications, which made individual students' cognitive contributions, but at the same time, they made them socially visible on platforms, and they has also helped the students to keep the track of the common study assignments. And if we look at the pedagogical point of view, most of the activities within these platforms are something that peer groups have had the control and tutoring. They have taken care of those. And only if the reports and competence demonstrations have been there, those have been sent to the teacher. But otherwise, the peer groups have been in charge. And from pedagogical affordances point of view, contact days have been very important for peer learning. Students appreciated them. They felt that those are well structured and they liked the workshop style of implementation. They felt that it gave the opportunity to meet and discuss with the fellow students. And they also got new perspectives based on various work experiences of the peers. And there was one group who said, during a contact day, you get to reflect on a completely new profession you are studying. So especially the contact days have given a ground for discussion and you get ideas from others so that you don't have to ponder alone. Next, the discussion part. And what the technology digital learning has offered for learners. For example, engage in a joint task, communicate, share resources, engage in a productive collaborative learning processes, engage in construction, monitor and regulate collaborative learning, and build groups and communities. Lots of interaction, lots of dialogue, lots of discussion, and doing things together. Teachers' tutoring presence is needed, especially regarding peer learning methods. There are various collaborative activities which are recognized to be beneficial for learning, but they do not appear consistently when group interaction is left to students. So also teachers, facilitators, those are needed in the process. The adult learners somehow, they have a kind of fixed idea of traditional group work, meaning that students work separately, each performing one piece of the task that are later just combined together into a single product. And this is not that kind of group work or peer learning what we are looking for, but real that kind of group work in which students and peers, they are working together, creating something new together. Next, about learning environments. And according to our findings of the social and cognitive affordances, peer groups need to have both teacher-designed learning environments, but also peer groups' collaborative learning environments to communicate and work together. And when students have had freedom to choose the tools for collaborative learning environment, it has been very appreciated by the students. According to our students, peer groups' collaborative learning environment, it has been very important. Students are saying that it increased motivation, and especially peer support has been very strong. There were students who mentioned that without peer support, it would not be possible to graduate in a year. Jorma Panula has said, "Help, don't disturb." And this sentence, it summarizes our conclusions of the study. The students evaluate, value, select and unselect the affordances in their own way and as decided in the peer group. So peer group is very important. Personalization of the study process, it should not be limited with 2, teacher-designed and controlled processes and activities. There need to be space for students and their own design. Balancing informal and formal, it gives room for the unexpected and unpredictable outcomes. Instead of teacher monitoring and regulation, the students need methods, skills, and application to regulate their own, others, and collective activities. Balancing between guiding enough, but not too much. And I think that this one is the most important result and conclusion of our study. And these are the references I have used in this presentation, and if you are interested in, you can find more information on those. Thank you for your attention, and if you feel that you would like to be in touch, you can find my email addresses here, and please send email. Thank you very much.